Hey friends, today on Literary Hype Woman is a very entertaining conversation with children's book author Adam Rubin. This is one of my most favorite conversations I've been able to have so far. It started out as like a news interview ahead of his visit to St. Louis, where I currently live, and it ended up being a lot longer conversation than I think either of us really planned for. We had a grand old time talking about writing and just really everything. We had a really fun time, at least I did. I hope he enjoyed it too, and I hope you do as well. So without further ado, here's Adam Rubin talking about the ice cream machine. Hello.
Hi.
How's it going?
It's going good.
I hear you're coming to St. Louis.
So I'm going to get to see some of my professors from WashU. I got my WashU gear right here.
What did you learn about like creativity and stuff here in St. Louis and at WashU that you're now using?
Oh man. For me, I went to the same school. When I was a kid, I lived in the same house until I went to college. Like my parents moved when I was in college in St. Louis, but for most of my life, I lived in the same house. I went to the same school with the same people. So when I went to WashU, it was like a personal renaissance. I was like, wait, maybe I'm not who I thought I was when I was a kid with this. Maybe I'm not the same person I was in first grade. So it was a very exciting time of exploration and self-expression and learning and experimentation. And did I say that one already? It was great. I loved it. I went to the Forest Park Art Museum frequently. I studied art for the first time. I founded a comedy group called Suspicious of Whistlers, which is still performing now, and met some great lifelong friends through that. So it was a wonderful time. I had an excellent experience, in St. Louis.
How are you excited to get back to in-person events?
Oh yeah, I can't wait. This is nice. I don't know if we're doing an interview or what's happening today, but it's nice to connect with people at all. And because I just basically sit in this room every day, but by myself. But it just can't compare to seeing people in person and that energy of kids and seeing their faces and their smiles and everything. I'm lucky because most of the time when I do in-person events, I do the bookstores at night, which are great, and they're usually kind of like smaller, like a normal bookstore event. But then during the day, I get to visit a couple schools, and those events, there's hundreds of kids stuffed into the gymnasium screaming their heads off, and it's chaos, and I love it. So that energy, I miss that energy, and it also is kind of part of the psychic transition out of the one project into the next to like share it publicly and say, hey, look, I made this thing. And people go, yay, or, whatever. Hopefully their response is yay. And then you can move on to the next thing. You feel like that's done. I did that. Now it's the next thing.
Talk about the concept of ice cream machine, because it's a little bit different than your normal kids book.
Yeah, so the ice cream machine is a collection of stories, 6 different stories, and they're all totally different. They have different illustrators. They are set in different universes. There's sci-fi stories, fantasy stories, adventure stories with different characters. But the one thing they all have in common is their name, which is the ice cream machine. And the reason that I wrote a book full of stories with the same name is that the most common question I get asked by kids and by adults is, how do you come up with an idea for a story? Which to me, what I think they're asking is, how do I come up with an idea? As in, how does this person that wants to write a story come up with an idea? And there seems to be this misconception that the idea for a story is what makes the story, that it's got to be some brilliant, groundbreaking thing that will get you started. And the truth is that the idea is just an excuse to start writing. So for me, I like to start with the title of the story, and then I start to write the story. And it's different for everyone, but I figure if it works for me, maybe it'll work for some other kids too.
When they pitched this to me, I was like, oh yeah, I can just read that real fast. Just thinking of Dragons Love Tacos, which makes me want tacos so often working in the bookstore. And so yeah, this little chunky boy comes out. How did you approach, like, what was it? Was there a different approach to going at the ice cream machine?
Oh yeah, it was a totally different animal than writing a picture book. Writing a picture book's like a song. You go over it 1,000 times, you can completely change it. You can start from scratch. You can work on every little tiny detail until it feels perfect. And with a book the size of the ice cream machine, it felt like trying to climb a mountain. that there was this insurmountable task ahead of me. And it was so intimidating that the first time I tried to write it, I just focused on the word count to the point where I thought, okay, if I just write 1,000 words for 60 days, I'll have the book done. But then when I finished those 60,000 words, they just didn't make any sense. So it was an important lesson in how crucial it is to make a good plan, not just a loose plan, but like a very strong plan, a solid outline before diving in to try to flesh out the story. At least for me, everybody approaches things differently from a writing perspective. But for me, I learned how incredibly valuable it is to make a very thorough outline.
So you learned you are not really a pantser.
A pantser?
Yeah, like for NaNoWriMo, it's like the pantsers are the ones who fly by the seat of their pants, and then plotters are the ones who actually have to have a plan.
Oh, well, yeah, I think it's also, though, important to be open to discovery as you're writing the story to figure out what's working, what's not, if you need to change things. I just went through a third draft of this follow-up book to The Ice Cream Machine and was making some very serious changes, substantial changes to one of the stories because it didn't quite feel right. And sometimes where they start off is not where they wind up, and you get surprised by what happens or what connections are made and what feels like it's the important part of the story. And that's just kind of part of the experience, being open to flying by the seat of your pants, even if you have made a good plan. And at the end of the book, I say, look, I wrote 6 stories. They're all called The Ice Cream Machine. They're all totally different. What kind of story would you write if you were to write a story called The Ice Cream Machine? And my hope is that that will encourage them to give creative writing a try. And if they need even a little extra nudge, I put my address in the back of the book so that they can send me the story that they wrote. And if I get enough submissions before the end of the school year, my plan is to publish the best ones in the paperback edition of The Ice Cream Machine, which would be really cool because that would mean some 5th and 6th grade kids would become officially published authors.
That is fantastic. Oh my goodness, now I'm like kind of jealous of these kids that are gonna get
Yeah, you know, I somebody asked me recently, like an adult was like, is there an age limit or what's the deal? And I didn't think about that so much, but I guess we'll have to see.
That could result in a lot more submissions than you're expecting.
Yeah, Lemony Snicket told me that I'm a fool for making this offer and that I'm going to be inundated and that all of my time will be monopolized just reading these stories. And I think that's a good problem. If that happens, it'll be great. I'll be quite happy, and maybe I'll get some local students to help me sift through everything and pick out the best ones.
That's a fantastic idea. I love it so much. And I did love, like, because on the digital book, when I started it, before I got the physical book, it had your note at the beginning. So I read that right off the bat and was like, this is nuts, but it's awesome.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen, but I guess I'm pantsing it on this one. We'll see how it goes. I think that a little chaos is probably a good thing.
I love that. Okay, so you mentioned a sequel. Is it going to also follow the same format?
Yeah, so I've written a sequel that will follow the same format. I'm not going to reveal the title quite yet because then that would pierce the dramatic balloon that we'll have to inflate at some point to get everyone excited. Once they've read The Ice Cream Machine and they're just hungry for more, we'll have another one coming out hopefully next year. It's the same approach where there's a single title and 6 different stories and 6 different illustrators, totally new illustrator. Dan Salmeri is going to do it again because he's my buddy and he owes me. But but other than that, there's 5 other illustrators, incredible, from all over the world, different styles and different energies. And that's one of my favorite parts of this project, is getting to collaborate with 6 talented people for each book. And selfishly, I always ask them to read the story in an early draft form and just tell me what they think, if they have any suggestions or ideas. And some of them have amazing suggestions and ideas.
How do you pull such imaginative, like, these kids are up to crazy things, like where okay, it's the same question that you get asked, like, where do you come up with these shenanigans?
Yeah, so it's a very common question. I think it's the most popular question I get asked is, where do you come up with your ideas? And The truth is, and I mentioned this in the introduction to the book, the truth is that everybody has ideas all day, every day. The trick is allowing yourself to believe that your ideas are good ideas. Now, that doesn't mean that every idea you have is a good idea. The people that think that all their ideas are good ideas, they usually go into politics. But the rest of us, we can just kind of keep track of the ideas and note them when they happen. So I don't like to think about it as having ideas. I like to think about it more like collecting ideas, because when you first get an idea, it's not fully formed. It's like a little baby bird, and you don't know if it's going to grow up big and strong and soar through the air. But if you're rough with it, then you can kill it by accident before it's ever had a chance to grow. So when I have an idea, even if it's just in this like nebulous form, but I don't even know what it is yet, I just kind of, I write it down or I add it to my Google Keep app, because it might turn into something later, and you don't know until you give it some space, and maybe your subconscious is thinking about it a little bit, or then maybe when you go to write, you realize, oh, I need some sort of store in this scene. And a month ago, you had this great idea. You saw, oh, there's this store that only sells hats. Like, what an interesting kind of store. You walk in, you buy a new personality for yourself, and you walk out. What, that could be cool to put into the story. And so I like to think about it more like collecting ideas.
With the success that you've had with Dragons Love Tacos and Dragons Love Tacos 2, did you feel a lot of pressure going into this, doing something so different?
Yeah, and I still do, because frankly, nobody's asking for the Dragons Love Tacos guy to write 60,000 words in a doorstop book. Like, they'd much rather I write Dragons Love Christmas, Dragons Love Thanksgiving, Dragons Love Recycling, Dragons Love Flag Day. They would love that. But that's not exciting for me. And really what happened was, I was not a picture book author by profession. I was a picture book author by choice, basically, for pleasure, really. It was something I did because I loved to do it. It wasn't what I did for a living, and it wasn't what I had a day job. So I've always been lucky in that I get to approach this opportunity without the financial burden of having to do a million books or having to do everything that comes along. I only make the books that I really feel passionately about, and I will continue to do that. So I didn't even really go around and meet kids and go and do author visits until like 6 or 7 books in. But when I started doing that, it was a weird experience. It was an eye-opening experience, because as an author, and most people don't know this, but as an author, when you show up at a school, they have like 400 kids in the gym, and you walk into the gym and they hand you a microphone, and that's it. And then you're just standing there looking, and nobody tells you what to say. Nobody tells you what not to say. You just have to figure it out. Somehow writing a book qualifies you to do public speaking for children. I don't know who decided that, but that's how it works. And eventually I realized what I needed to say, or what I should say, is reading is fun. Because I was there, I had some books that these kids were having fun reading. My other books, they had fun reading those. And I could legitimately say to them, look, reading is fun and I'll prove it to you. But eventually it started to feel sort of self-serving. Like, buy my other books. Reading is fun. Keep reading, keep buying my books. Be a good consumer. And it was sort of passive too. While reading is fun, and I encourage everyone to do as much reading as possible and buy my books and be an obedient consumer, to me, the real magic is in the writing, is in this opportunity to do whatever you want, which is an invitation that kids don't get very often in day-to-day life. Very rarely does somebody say, okay, do whatever you want to this kid. They got asked to go to the bathroom, people tell them what to wear. But when you invite them to write a story, you can say to them, write anything you want. Anything you can think of, you can put it into your story. You can fly to the moon. You can eat 10,000 pizzas. And this is an exciting proposition for a kid who probably hasn't had this opportunity before. And it's not just that it's empowering, which it is. It's that it helps them to communicate their inner life, to learn that their ideas have value and how to share those ideas with people in a way that strangers can appreciate their most intimate thoughts. And those sort of communication skills are so important. And not only that, I think that writing fiction forces you to practice empathy, because you have to put yourself in you have to see the world from the viewpoint of a character that may be very different from yourself. And if we can have a little more empathy and better communication skills with our kids, I think that that would be great.
That's true. There's actually been studies that fiction readers are more empathetic people.
There you go.
I'm a nerd like that. I read these kinds of studies.
I can tell because you're in front of a color coordinated bookshelf that you're reading these kinds of studies.
This is my real bookshelf.
Mm-hmm.
Well, 4 of the 8 anyway. I have a problem, and there's like 2 giant piles on the floor.
You seem to have a thing for blue books.
That's just the corner I'm on. I've also got all the way through the rainbow, and they're gradient dark to light.
Wow.
That person.
Do you ever make a buying decision based on the color of the binding?
I have identified some books I want just because I'm like, oh, this one would look good in my kitchen.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's just more aesthetically pleasing.
Right, right.
Do it for the gram or whatever.
People say you shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but it's not true. People do judge a book by its cover, and that's why you need to have a good cover.
This is very true. So I work part-time in a bookstore at Barnes & Noble here as well. And I've actually overheard people like, no, if you want me to buy your book, you got to have a sick cover. And it's like,
I'll show you something. My book, The Ice Cream Machine, has a cover that is unlike any other book, as far as I know, to ever have been created. Which is that underneath the cover, there's a secret surprise. Because if you take the cover off, you remember I said I was asking the kids to send me their own stories. Well, they might not have an envelope handy. So the cover actually comes off and folds into an envelope for them to send me their story. And it's already addressed to me. All they got to do is put on a stamp and drop it in the mail.
Y'all thought of everything. Was that your idea or someone in the marketing and the actual publisher's idea?
No, it was my idea because I didn't actually want a dust jacket at all. I don't like dust jackets. I think they're kind of, most of the time, they're just marketing material and a lot of people throw them away. So it just felt superfluous. I like the paper overboard. Those books, like that's a classy book, you know, like I'll be knocking stuff over, but like this is a classy old school stuff right here. So I love that look. And basically marketing and the publisher advised me very strongly that we needed to have a dust jacket. And so I tried to think of a way to make it surprising or more interesting than just the average dust jacket. And this is what I come up with.
I hope, well, I will be telling people about this because like Marie Lu books, her Sky Hunter Steel Striker, I had the first one on my shelf for a year before she posted a picture and I was like without the dust jacket and I was like, it's that gorgeous underneath there.
Yep. You need to get into the practice of undressing your books when you first get them, because sometimes people do very beautiful things. Even this book, which is pretty simple. It's just got this foil stamping, this blue foil stamping. That's so cool.
So pretty.
Designed by John Hendricks of Washington University. The cover and all the type on the outside of the book.
Do you get to use a lot of WashU, like people you've connected with through WashU for your book?
Well, if it wasn't for WashU, I wouldn't be writing picture books at all. I was working in Chicago after college, writing Happy Meal commercials at Leo Burnett. And I got a call from my buddy Corey, who went to WashU with me. And he said, hey, you should talk to my friend, Dan, from high school. And Dan was Dan Salmeri. And if it wasn't for Corey, I never would have met Dan Salmeri, never would have written Those Darn Squirrels. And eventually later on, Dragons Love Tacos, High Five, Secret Pizza Party, Robo Sauce. So Dan and I have had a very fruitful collaboration, and it's all thanks to Corey. And I met Corey at WashU.
That's so awesome. A lot of food in there. I appreciate this.
Yep. Everybody likes food, turns out. Every culture all around the world eats food.
I was telling one of my best friends, I was like, oh, I get to talk to the guy who wrote Dragons Love Tacos, that every time I shelve, I want tacos. And she goes, you really do want tacos all the time. So that's what it is. It's like, it's literally, I see that book. I'm like, I'm getting tacos after work.
Yeah.
So thank you for fueling my Taco Bell addiction.
No problem. Now, hope maybe you'll have cravings for ice cream after this. I'm not sure.
I mean, probably. That doesn't take much effort either.
That's another thing I think everybody likes. Even if you're lactose intolerant, there's good options for ice cream, for sweet, creamy, cold things. And can't wait to visit St. Louis again and eat some toasted ravioli.
There you go. Is that gonna be your next book? You can do a book about T-Rav?
I don't know that that is I don't know if that's a widely known delicacy. That may be a specific St. Louis thing.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. This has been a great conversation. I'm very excited.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Bye, Stephanie.
I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Adam was so much fun to talk to, and the concept of his book, The Ice Cream Machine, is so unique and so cool, and I really love what he's doing with kids and giving them that opportunity. So don't forget to grab a copy of The Ice Cream Machine by Adam Rubin and hit that subscribe button to stay on top of all the videos and author conversations coming your way here from Literary Hype Woman.